Koven?
Koven.
Koven.
Koven, damn
Oh
it.
my
How
God,
many times have I told people it's Koven?
I've made a mistake already. I'm going to have to tweet about this later on. I've made a mistake. Bernie, I am just so joyful to be here with you today. You're like the father, the king of play. And I don't know how many people really know what kind of work you've been doing over the past 50 years, maybe? Close to 60?
50, I'm 50.
So, how did you get into this playfulness stuff? I mean, were you a playful kid? And what, by the way, is playfulness? What is that?
That's a good question. You want me to answer all of that right now?
No, let's get back to that.
Okay. All right. Let me start with how I got into play. Actually, every kid is into play. Some of us refuse to get out of play. I was one of those. I decided that the story that I tell, which I think is a true story, except, if you tell a story too many times, you don't remember if it's true or not, because the imagination kicks in and then something else kicks out. Anyhow, so I remember, and I think I remember being in like first grade and getting my first workbook. And I was all excited about the workbook because it was pretty. It had a shiny cover. It had color. The cover was color. And inside were all kinds of cartoons and cool looking things. And so the teacher says, "Okay, class, everybody do the first page of the workbook." And I started doing the first page of the workbook. And I said, "Oh man, this is really cool because there are all these puzzles in it. And I could just do the puzzles." And then the next thing the teacher says, "Okay, class, now continue from page 2 to page 5, and I'll be back in 3 minutes." And 2 minutes later, I'm doing these things that I'm saying, wait a minute. Wait, this is not a fun thing. This is like boring. and that was my first big step away from the universe in which normal people inhabit, because I began to really realize that I wanted to stay in that reality where I would be playing, and that I wanted to resist any attempts that the world was making on me to do anything other than that. And that's what I think. Now, I'm not sure, but I like that story. It sounds right. But who knows?
I love that story. I've read it many times. I'll buy that story.
Okay.
I'll buy that. So then you went through school. You went through college.
I went to college.
You went to college, yeah.
I have a master's degree in theater.
And did you ever hear of somebody named Viola Spolin?
Did I ever hear of Viola Spolin? Wait, I didn't. Hey, wait. Are we going to talk about playfulness also, or do you want to talk about Spolin?
Both.
Because that was one of the questions I thought you asked.
Yeah.
How'd you get into play? What is playfulness anyway? But let's hold that playfulness question then.
Okay.
In abeyance. We'll hold it in abeyance, which is right outside of Dubuque, I believe.
I thought it was out of Des Moines, but that's okay.
Des Moines, yeah, well, it's somewhere in the Midwest. Okay, anyhow.
So you had a degree in theater. That's why I got into Viola. Theater.
Yes, Viola. Yes. Well, okay. So I was hired by various connivances of myself to be a curriculum development specialist for an elementary school program in Philadelphia, and the curriculum was supposed to be in theater. I, Bernard, wanted at that time to make a curriculum in something that the kids cared about. And I didn't care if it really was theater, but I loved theater, so I tried. I started with theater, and I was looking for something that I thought would be fun for the kids to do. And Viola was the first resource that I found that would make that possible. Now, I reinterpreted or misinterpreted her work so that I could work with the kids, because her book Improvisation for the Theater, which is just a marvelous book, but it was really designed as to teach people how to do theater. And there was this whole idea of it was very carefully structured, and it was led by an adult who would be guide. Viola developed this process she called side coaching, and that was through the. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find the kind of theater that kids wanted to do, and I didn't really even know what kids think is theater or anything close to theater like. So if I didn't have Spolin, I don't know how I would have started. And the game structure was a really valuable insight for me. It was a background that I was perceiving what the kids were doing through. And so eventually, I mean, the kids liked what I was doing. They liked coming down to the class. They used to call me Mr. Drama. And we were doing a lot of Spolin-esque things, but we were just doing them for the fun of it, not for, I mean, nobody got critiqued for their acting or anything. We would do things like, okay, let's pretend we're ice cubes. We're all ice cubes, and we're melting together, and now we're frozen into one big ice cube. And now the sun comes out, and we're melting some more. And now we're just a pool of water, and we're slowly evaporating. That kind of stuff. Now that I think about it, I was still being the guide, but I was being a guide more in terms of just keeping the fantasy going than in terms of looking at their acting abilities or having them even be conscious of their acting abilities. So, but I realized after about 2 months of doing this that this really wasn't what I was looking for, because it wasn't. They didn't take it as their theater, They didn't take. You know how I could tell if I walked out of the room for a minute and came back in? That was my test. 1 minute, and if they were doing the same thing that they were doing when I left, then I knew I was kind of closer to where I needed to be. And invariably, a minute later, I came back and and it was all chaos and havoc. They were running around. Well, we had a very beautiful amphitheater that we were doing it in. It was like 4, I think, consecutive levels that were all in a big circle, and they were carpeted. Can you imagine that? Looked like a pit from the top, but each level carpeted, and each step wide enough that you could, if you were a kid, you could lie down on and still have room. So it was about that. So it was a great place to run around in. I mean, there's circles, and you could run. One level could run one direction, the other could run. You could run up and down. So that's what they would do the moment I left. And the last thing I wanted to do was to stop them from doing what they want to do. I was trying to find what. So one day I come in and I say, look, tell me something, just between you and me. Is there anything you'd actually want to do here? So that was kind of said more in a panicky tone, like, is there anything you want to do here? Kind of like that. I'm sorry, Mr. Soundman. Jesus, did I blow up something? I should have warned you. Anyhow, they said, yes, we want to play a game. So, a game. So I said, okay, what do you mean a game? They say, well, Duck, Duck, Goose. And I remember Duck, Duck, Goose. I knew that was a game, in fact. But I was kind of a little nervous about saying, oh, yeah, let's play Duck, Duck, Goose, because I was supposed to be teaching something. And having the kids just in this $250,000 theater environment with spotlights and microphones and having them play Duck, Duck, Goose seemed like something I really didn't want the principal to come down and see. But by that point, I had reached, I felt so lost in what I was trying to do because because nothing was coming from the kids yet. And the first thing that came from the kids was, we want to play a game. So I decided to let them play and see what would happen. And they played the game, and I walked out of the room, and I came back a minute later, and they were still playing the game. And then I walk out, and I'm out for 3 minutes. Children completely untrained, undisciplined, unguarded, unprotected, no one telling them what to do at all. And I come back in, and they're still playing. So I says to myself, I says, aha! I says, Actually, I said, aha, like that. It was aha, because I had it. I got it. I knew what it was. It was games. And I actually, it wasn't until about 3 minutes later, and I'm in there and I'm watching the kids play the games. One of the kids asks me if I want to play too. Now, talk about breaking. First of all, it was like a really big compliment to me. I mean, I felt, oh my God, the kids actually wanted me in to play with them on the. Of course they did, but I was just so into the teacher student, the necessary division between those two roles that it just never occurred to me that I could play with them. But they invited me, and I started playing, and 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 oh, I forgot to tell you because I was also the other discipline that I had was playwriting. I got a master's degree in playwriting, and also kind of I like poetry a lot, and I like acting a lot. You know, acting made up stories and making up as I go, pretending and and improvisation, as a matter of fact. That's another story which I made. Anyhow, I come in and we started playing Duck Duck Goose, and one of the things I almost immediately realized was like I didn't really want to be chosen. You go around the kid who's playing Fox goes around the circle, taps the kids on the head, and it goes duck 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 duck. And then when he wants to choose a kid, he says goose, and the goose has to stand up, run around the circle, and get back to his seat before the fox can tag him. And if the fox does tag him, then the fox sits down and the goose becomes the fox, or something like that. Or the other, if he doesn't, and the roles change somehow because of that. But I didn't want to be chosen.
You didn't want to be. You didn't want to be it.
I did not want to be the goose.
Right.
I did not want to be, as one might say, goosed, because one might say that because I knew, first of all, that those little stupid kids could run faster than I could, and I would be running for the rest of the whole session if I let myself. And that's when I realized that the extent of theater. Margot, it's so much fun watching your face as I talk. You are so there and so into me. It's just wonderful. I love it. What are you talking about? Oh yeah. So it was then I got a little taste then that something real was. It wasn't just play, forgive the expression, but it was something real that was being played with. Like because I didn't want to be chosen, well, that happens to people a lot in life, that you don't want to be chosen. I mean, there you are sitting in the classroom and the teacher asks a question and you don't know the answer. And you don't want to be chosen. So what do you do? How do you look invisible? How do you look like somebody not worthy of being chosen? Well, there are a couple of strategies that you learn eventually as a student, and you learn immediately in Duck Duck Goose. One thing is you either can look like you just don't care and look and get very quiet and kind of invisible. You know what I mean? You kind of, I'm just here and I don't care about this game. This game is beneath me. I'm just sitting here to be here because I'm such a good person. And you look like that. Or you try to look like really excited. Oh, please choose me. Oh, please, depending upon the person who's being it, right? The same thing works with teachers, by the way. The same strategy. Yeah, oh, choose me. It's a risky. Usually the teacher never chooses the person who says, choose me. And I now, it took me 30 years before I realized how profound this all was, because I was in Israel at the time, and I was a couple of people in the group that because I was talking about play and life and all that kind of stuff, and one of them had been in the concentration camps, and I started talking to them about looking invisible and how that really is a useful life skill. And she said, she said, Mr. De Koven. That's how she said, Mr. De Koven, I want to tell you that that thing that you're talking about looking invisible for many people in the concentration camps, that was the thing that kept them from being killed. That was the very art of survival depended upon looking invisible. Well, I got that same face on my face that you got on your face right now because I started almost crying. And it helped me realize that games are really, really profound things. They are talk about theater that I mean, they may not have like characters, they may not have plot, there's no curtain, but they are true theater in its most elegant, most pure form, and that they are dealing with themes that are universal and profound. And anyhow, so that's how I wound up creating a curriculum in games. And fortunately, I wasn't kicked out, and I got to be in the school for 4 years. After 3 years, I had finished the curriculum. It was 5 volumes, 4 of which were nothing but games. One was a teacher's guide on how to play it. Oh, and there was a 6th volume for the parents to teach them how to help facilitate kids play. So that's how I got started.
Is that work still available somewhere? Is it in the Library of Congress or Library
I
of
don't
Silly Things?
I don't know.
No.
It's in the library of Look What We Did in the Department of Bragging and Survival of the School District of Philadelphia. I don't know where it is.
But then things started happening like the 60s
They
and
did happen, yes.
and the
Well, they were happening while I was doing this. I started out in '68.
okay. And it was in the first Earth Day. Was that in 1969 or 70?
I don't remember, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was somewhere.
some Stuart Brand and those folks and
Yes, and that was the New Games Foundation,
right.
which I, well, see, okay, so I decided that that games was very important, and that we hadn't been paying much attention to it as adults, um, and I have another little story. You can shut me up, or because I'm not
Keep
even
going.
answering.
We got all the time in the world. I'm happy. Go
I love
ahead.
time,
Go
happiness.
ahead.
All I want from you is you should be happy. That's all I'm saying. Um, what am I saying? Okay, so I have my finished curriculum. See, it's 5 volumes, and I'm doing training of the teachers. They only get a 45-minute introduction to what this whole thing is about. So, and I have my and I show them my 5, and they all think about, oh man, I want that because it would look so good on my bookshelf to have a whole like set of matching. Oh boy, I don't think they wanted to do anything with the curriculum, but on my bookshelf it would make well some of anyhow. So I decide that I have 7 games that I've prepared, and each game is a an instantiation. I love using that's the first time I use it in this conversation. I'm hoping to use that again. It means it was a example. It was an example of a particular kind of game, because games, if you start looking at them, there are many different kinds, and they allow many different kinds of social interaction to take place. Some games, there's like for example, Follow the Leader. Well, in Follow the Leader, you have one kid who is like the boss, right? And the boss is trying to catch everybody doing something wrong. So you have the boss, and you have the archetype of what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And the only way you get to be boss is to be sneaky enough and lucky enough and to go far enough that you're like right next to the boss and you manage to tag the boss. Well, this is so this is one, and and that other game that I was just talking about, Duck Duck Goose, is yet another kind of pattern, social interaction. And so there are all these different, or steal the bacon, or you think of any of the kids games. A lot of them have very different social structures, and that's what I wanted to. That was the whole the I guess the educational component. It was really a social education that the Interplay catalog was all about, because children in most schools have very little opportunity to develop their socialization skills, um, and and they tend to be, the only real structure is that if you're a bully, you do this, and if you're not a bully, you do that. But there's no real kind of the art of developing relationships is not taught in the classroom, and yet it's the thing it's what makes them survive in the business world. If you can't develop a good relationship, you're going to fail time after time. So anyhow, I have these 7 games that I have pre-selected, and we're going to play all 7 of them so they can experience the different kinds of social relationships that games embody. So I figured that would be enough for them. I mean, they wouldn't really understand the deeper part of how to facilitate a game, but they would at least understand that games are something that you can take seriously, that they do mean something, and that if you think about it a little bit, you can create opportunities for kids to explore different dimensions of social relationships, like leadership and following and rule changing and structuring and all those kinds of things, making agreements and changing agreements. So I start out naturally with Duck Duck Goose, since it was the first game that I ever played with the kids, and it became my archetype. And so 5 minutes afterwards, we're playing Duck Duck Goose, and I realized, boy, we better get on to the next game because I have 6 more games to play. So I say, okay, well, that was Duck Duck Goose. Now I want to talk to you about, and one of the teachers says, wait a minute. Wait, Mr. Koven. They call me Mr. Koven, which I appreciated. I said, Mr. Koven, wait a minute. I didn't get my turn. Oh, I didn't get my turn. I said, but that's okay. This is just for illustration. No, it's not. They got to be a fox. I didn't get to be a fox. I want to be the fox. I want to play. So I said, all right. And for that whole 45-minute period, we only got through 1 game and we never finished it. Duck Duck Goose. So that was my first. See, now that was a pivotal. Yeah, we call these pivotal moments in the trade. That was one of my first pivotal moments, because I realized that for adults, this is what I realized: adults are different than kids. Adults need permission to play. Adults need the opportunity. They need an environment which is conducive to play. They need, because they live in a world which they have turned into something very odious, into something extremely unplayful. It stinks a little bit because it's extremely unplayful. And I mean, and the whole thing about looking serious is like the cardinal principle of adult interaction. You're in your office and you're laughing, and if the boss comes in, like, you just shut up as fast as possible, because why are you laughing if you're working? If you look like you're having fun. And not only does the boss disapprove, but a lot of the other coworkers disapprove, because they don't want to look like they're having fun, because they're afraid that they won't be thought of as serious enough. And so they have to look more serious than you are. And so they want to impress you. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is really, so I realized that I had to create that. Kids don't need permission to have fun. They don't need permission to play. They just need the opportunity. And it's the adults who are taking that opportunity away from them. Us, we're taking it away. We prohibit it. We try to modify it into ways that don't satisfy the kids. We try to make them wear uniforms so they look like cute little baseball players, even though they're playing football and it's underwater. Anyhow, go ahead.
When we were growing up, we played outside until it got dark. Maybe we were in the city or the country, or whatever. We played. We played games. We made things out of I had a brook behind my house, and I'd make little mud forts and do
Oh,
Fort
yeah,
Apache. And
yeah.
we'd make up all kinds of games with, sometimes we used dolls, but sometimes we'd use just our hands. And what was ever around, we played with. And
Yep.
we used to have recess at school. We used to have time to play by ourselves.
Yeah, that's so
It's so
true.
sad. It really is.
So what I did, because I had to do something about it, I had to reverse this whole thing. I, because champion of play and silliness. So so I bought a farm in Pennsylvania, and
Mm-hmm.
it was 25 acres eventually, and I called it the Games Preserve because it's not, even though, and ever since I called it that, people would come over and say, "Can I hunt here? Is it all right if I hunt here?" No, it's not those kind of games. It's games. So yeah. So I call it the Game Preserve, and I had a big barn there, and slowly I was able to build up a beautiful environment for people. I must have had over 1,000 board games and table games and puzzles, and I started reviewing games for Games Magazine, so I could get more games that way. And the UPS truck used to come by every day. We got to know him by name, and we would play with him, and out in the and I would do these workshops in this beautiful environment. And very often, even though we had ping pong and pinball and air hockey and billiards, we had the flattest billiard table with the thickest slate underneath it in probably the entire within 10 miles of the Schuylkill River. I'm telling you, it was just anyhow. Uh, and it was a great. It was. We didn't make money a lot of times, but we accomplished what I really needed to be accomplished because we managed to give adults permission to play. And in fact, the best events of them all were the ones outside the barn, not with surrounded by games, but surrounded by nature. And because there people had to make up their own and had to create the play contract with each other. And there they could run amok as much as they needed to. And we had we had these we had a parachute, and we used that for a tent or for a giant picnic table. And we would I I mean, all these beautiful spontaneous games would start just arising from the freedom that we finally found as the barn served as a kind of uh, uh, instantiation. That's the second time
Woo.
of the permission to play. The barn said, "Oh, look, the adults come in. We have the permission. It's here. It's this guy's invested so much money in it, and then look, it's all we're obviously allowed to." But going out of the barn and being free from the anything other than the beauty of being in this environment and each other, and people would start playing, and actually what was happening, to get back to your first question, if I may, is that they were becoming playful, or let's say they were allowing themselves to be playful. Now, when you play a game, it's not necessarily, you don't have to be playful to play the game. It's like being a violin player. It's not necessarily conducive to being playful if you're playing a violin. I mean, you're creating beauty, and in fact, the idea is to try to follow as closely as possible to the script, to the score of the music, uh, but to get deep enough into it so you can just slightly modify it to represent your deeper insight into what the music is really all about, and to connect your emotion and your reasoning into. But that's play, but not playfulness. If you were playing the violin and it was like improv playing, it was jazz that you were playing, then it's a different thing. That becomes playful. So that's the unique thing about playfulness, is that it really is. It's not an act as much as it is an attitude.
Mhm.
It's a way of being. Um, I like to, I like to, uh, lately I've been saying that playfulness is the opposite of rigidity. I don't know if that really helps, but for me, it like, because when I think of a playful person, I think of a person who's kind of loose, you know, who like a good improv person, right? Who'll just move from one thing to another, who's not going to get frozen in a particular role, who's always there in a responsive position, always responding to whatever somebody is doing or saying,
Right. Instead of
and
reacting.
instead of
And they
reacting.
start their days like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, we have places for those people too. But anyhow, what I'm saying is that that's the difference.
Hmm.
And and I find that, I mean, a lot of people, when we talk about playfulness, when I talk about playfulness, they think I'm talking about mindfulness,
Hmm.
because it's very much like that.
It is,
It's
yeah.
having a certain presence of mind, but mindfulness is always related to very serious stuff. When you think about mindfulness, it sounds more like you're very focused, you're attuned to the universe, and you're paying attention to the way the wind is flowing over your hair, and how this particular follicle is going this way and that. You're so in tune when you can, and the butterfly's wings float over you when you feel the. But that's that's but that's not like playfulness. Playfulness is a way of interacting physically, emotionally, with the world and with other people, anything in the world. It's an interactive, physical embodiment of play. I mean, its root is play, but the action is one where you're not where it's one of responsiveness.
Hmm.
Responsiveness, I guess.
Well, like Ram Dass said, in Be Here Now, I'm totally here now when I'm in play. I'm not thinking about something else or whatever.
But
What do you
but
think?
yes, but
And you don't have
also,
to agree with me. I can be wrong.
yes, that's part of our freedom. It's kind of fun
That's
to be wrong
right.
from time to time. Go ahead, be wrong if you want.
All right.
Uh,
Different.
but yeah, it's one. Yes, it's engaging in the world, but it's also, yeah. I mean, it's see, the followers of Ram Dass are also people who take it very seriously. And when you think when most of them, when they try, they want to meditate, and they want to be in this kind of very divine connection with the world, and maybe drop acid at the same time while they're smoking pot and dancing and being naked. And that's all what
Horrible.
it's.
Horrible
No,
stuff. I've never done it myself,
no,
Bernie.
me
Oh,
neither.
no.
I'm only talking about what I heard about these, but
Yeah.
but I'm saying that playfulness is more engaging in being a participant in making the world, not just experiencing the world. Ooh, that's good.
I
That's
like
good.
that.
Yeah,
I
you
like
can
that.
keep. Why don't you keep that? Use
I
that
like that.
somewhere.
You've used some terms like a contract to play, permission to play, and the word willingness comes up a lot in your work that I've seen. And being willing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what?
What? So what? And now what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But what about the contract to play? Can you address that just a little bit more? What does that mean?
Well, it's if I want to play with you, or let's say we want to play with each other, is even better. And we set up a kind of an agreement that we're not going to take each other seriously, unless serious needs come across. And if that happens, then we'll break the play contract for that time. So if you have to go to the bathroom, then we have to stop playing so you can attend to your needs.
Hmm.
It's just as simple as that. Um, so while we're playing, it's possible for somebody to break the contract, the agreement that we're going to be playing, and do something that's out of the sphere of play. Take something seriously that you meant playfully. That's one example.
Okay.
Uh, get upset because they're not winning. That's another
Mm.
example. And and because if the contract is to play and have fun together, then the goal is not to win. The goal is to play and have fun together, and that's what how we understand our relationship and our purpose. And if somebody takes winning, gets very angry because he's not winning, well, then that person is breaking the contract because that wasn't what we agreed to. We agreed to play to have fun. So unfortunately, for most children past the age of 10, and for the rest of our lives after that, we take the play contract too. We only have that serious play contract, and it's too serious. It becomes a binding one, and it becomes one in which the only way we have to measure how much fun we're having is whether we're winning or not. And that's devastation. That's a psychic death because instead of being able to embrace our freedom together, we become locked in this thing where I talk about instead of we being the people who determine whether the game is good enough to play, the game becomes the thing that determines whether we're good enough to play. This is very profound.
It is so Zen-like. I'm telling you, my mind is just going a million miles. But I had an example of this the other day. I was in a pool when there were some little boys there, and I said, let's see who can hold their breath longer in the water. And I did. And I did. I said, I won. And I thought, wait a minute. I won. So what?
Really?
I beat this poor little kid with no lungs. Yeah. What's that about?
So I practiced that a lot when I was involved in games because it was, and I learned that it's to maintain the play contract. That then the rules are, you have to realize that the game is not as important as the people who are playing. So that means that rather than trying to win, if the game gets in your way, you should change the rules. And in my book, The Well-Played Game, there's at least one chapter, if not two, devoted to the art of cheating.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain kind of cheating that you have to do in order to keep the contract pure, in order to keep the intention to play one that is followed, as opposed to one that becomes denied to the players because they decide that the game becomes more important.
Right. Well, mentioning The Well-Played Game, which was published initially in what, 1978?
Yes.
And has been republished?
By MIT Press.
MIT Press. Yeah. It's an incredible book. It's wonderful. And now there's another book you're giving away called A Playful Path. Look at you. Yes. You're giving it away.
I'm giving it away. What's the matter with what all right, this is a little depressing. I wrote a post. It's a little depressing. I'm going to get depressed before I even talk about it because maybe it's very depressing.
I think I know the post of which you speak. Go ahead.
I wrote a post. I said I have cancer, but it's not going to stop me. And I'm going to be having fun, and it's wonderful. And you shouldn't feel sorry for me. Be cancer, schmancer, I don't care. And I'm going to go out playing. That's what my post was, basically. And on that day, I got 400,000 downloads of A Playful Path. 400,000. I went viral. Just as the time my body was getting viral, so did my it's funny with the virus, it's polio. It's not a virus, but anyhow, I like to say it. But 400,000 people downloaded The Playful Path. Oh, if I had only asked for $1, just $1.
I know. You need a better manager. I'm available. Come on. Yeah. Let me tell you. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And it was so generous of you to give this book. And I'm going to urge everybody, I'm going to put links up to all of your beautiful work. Yeah. But, and yesterday was an incredible day in Indianapolis. There was a groundbreaking ceremony, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. You want me to talk about it? Is that what you're saying? You're so devious. I don't know how you do these things to me. All right, so there I am dying, and I'm thinking about dying, and I'm thinking about I want to leave a memorial so that my for my family and my community. So if they want to think about me and maybe pretend they're talking to me, there would be something that was like a physical. Have I said instantiation yet?
Only twice. Say it again.
Oh, physical instantiation of my spiritual being. So, so at first I think I'm going to make something. I'm going to invent a new playground device, and then I start looking into playground devices and realize that I'm not going to live long enough to see through the invention of one of those things because, there's so many safety concerns and durability concerns, and so I started looking around in books, like recreation equipment books, to try to find out what people are selling and what there's available. And I go online and I start searching and I discovered this thing that's called the expression swing. And I fell in love with it. And what it is a swing. It's actually two swings. It's a combination of a baby swing and an adult swing. So imagine the baby swing is like that, like a little bucket, right? You know how those baby swings are? Can you imagine a baby swing?
I
And
can. I
adult,
actually have seen pictures of the expression swing, but I'm
so
visualizing with you. Yeah.
And here is the adult swing, which is and they're attached. So when you go, you're swinging together. You get that thing?
Yeah.
Isn't that a perfect? Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that's the whole. So what happens is that the parent is first of all, instead of being behind the kid and pushing him on the swing, the parent is in front of the kid and can watch the expressions on the kid's face, and the kids can watch the parent's face, and there's this beautiful kind of resonance of joy. I can look at your face and feel the joy, and you can look at my face, and that makes me feel more joyful, and then you start laughing and I start laughing, and I said, oh, this is what I'm about. It's that sharing of play, that sharing of joy, shared delight is really the kind of my favorite kind of. That's what I'm into. That's what I teach. That's what a good game does for people. That moment of shared laughter is transporting. I think it's like such a spiritual experience. Anyhow, I call up the company and that makes this thing called the expression swing. And I tell them I'm interested. I think would like to have it in my park. And they said, I'm so excited you're interested. They did this on the telephone, so I couldn't really see, but I'm imagining they're going, I'm so excited because we love the expression swing and we think it's wonderful and we're not getting enough attention to it. And the fact that you, Mr. D. Koven, such a play person who knows things, would like it. We would love that if you did that. Not only would we love it so much that we would donate the swings. And how many swings do you want? You want one or two? And I said, gotta have two. I said, absolutely. We'll give you a pair of swings and we'll donate it. Well, little did I know that donating the swings does not mean donating putting the swings in. So the putting the swings in costs about 3 times as much as the swings do. 3 times as much as the swings do.
Wow.
And however, so my daughter, that's why we live in Indianapolis now, because I wanted to be close to my daughter. Mm-hmm. Shale, she says I don't know how she does it, but there's a birthday gift fund. What I want for my birthday, and there's some organization that makes a fund. I want this for my birthday. Please contribute to this so I can get this for my birthday. So she asked them to contribute to the Swing Project. And she gets a couple of $1,000 just because people, they love her. They don't know me from Adam, but they know her. And she is so wonderful and so playful. And they want it. And it's for her birthday, she says. Me, for my birthday, I wanted a new iPad. But for her. So anyhow, and so we just had the ribbon cutting ceremony yesterday, and it was beautiful. Oh, man. Things started happening that I had no anticipation would happen. We had kids came over. Oh, and we had kids on the adult side and the baby side. Everybody wanted to swing on both sides at the same time. And at one time there was this one, like a 5-year-old kid who started pushing everybody so they could go too. And there was like a baby who was trying, like a 4-year-old kid trying to be on the adult swing, and there was this big fat kid, I think he was maybe 7, who could barely fit into the. So it was beautiful.
It was all spontaneous play and joyful. I'm so glad you had a great day with that yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
That is wonderful. And I'm going to post some pictures too along with this interview. I'm going to post a whole bunch of stuff like the games preserve. I've had pictures of the games preserve.
Oh, do you
cool
really?
things.
That's great.
Yeah. And I don't know how long we've been talking because I can go forever. I'm having so much fun here.
I'm afraid it's going over the 45-minute thing.
That's okay because we can break it in half or whatever because I'm having so much fun. But I tell you something that blew my mind about you is that around 1981, you needed some money.
Money.
And what did you do?
Well, so at that time I decided, so of all the games that we got from commercial companies, there were starting to come in these electronic games, computer games. And Atari sent me for review one of the game machines that they had I think it was the game of Tank. And it wasn't just one game. It was like 50 different variations of the game. And I was so excited because I realized that, hey, if this is just about what I've been teaching. It's close to what I've been teaching because it's not saying, can I beat you at the Tank? Because if I say I can win this game, then you can say, well, which variation can you win? Have you tried 14? I bet you I can beat you at 14. Yeah, but I can beat you at 26. So it becomes like a negotiation. It becomes a different kind of experience. That it's like the game. It's like just like I talk about. It becomes more like a play community than a game community. Because we're playing the same game, but we have to decide which version we want to play. So I decide that I'm going to be designing computer games, and I go to, lo and behold, I wind up designing computer games, and it was like magic. I happen to know the guy who was the president of one of the, anyhow, but he hired me. And I was successful. It was a great time to be designing. It was like the app time designing apps is now, because there was the technology. I had 4K to work in to design my 4K to design my games. In 1981, that was big time.
Wow.
And yet 4K was enough to create universes, because it was more abstract, like Minecraft is now. It was more abstract then, and you could do any. So I had a really good time and designed a lot of games. But then the technology advanced, and it got me depressed because they started getting into a lot of graphics. They got more space, more bigger computers, and they got into a lot of graphics. And the result was that the process had to be more realistic. And so they started putting all their time and money and talent into the graphics of the computer, of the game, and very little into the design of the game. So they would be producing one game after another game after another game, all pretty much the same, but just with different graphics in it. So I had to get out of that and find something else.
What'd you find?
No, you know what I'm finding? I'm finding it's too late now. I got to go already.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll do this again, won't we?
Maybe. It depends. It all depends. If when I see, am I going to see the video first before you?
I can do that. Would you like me to do that?
If I like it enough, maybe we'll do another.
Okay. Well, this better be darn good. Jesus, it's up to you, man. Not my responsibility.
Yeah. Jesus, you better put together a beautiful thing here. Don't feel on the spot.
I want to tell you something, and I mean this with all my heart, even though we just met. I love you. And I thank you for everything you've done to help me and other people learn about why it's so important to play and to be playful in our lives. You're a wonderful example. And if you don't give me another interview after I said those nice things, there's something wrong with you, Bernie.
All right, I'll give you an interview.
Okay.
But I'm not telling you, I'm not saying how long yet. Okay. It might be just 10 minutes,
That's fine. Hey,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I love you. Have a wonderful, blessed day.
You too, Margot. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. Bye.